Okay, it's just another fan video this time. Fan-driven video. Get it? No, it's a fan. Really, seriously, it's a fan and it's seized up. And I've had one of these before and got it going like a year ago, and now I've got another one. And we're going to get this one going and see how long it lasts this time. Check it out. I got another one of these Air Innovations fans in that came from the same person that had the one last year. They have two of them. This is their other one, and it is not working. It looks like it's seized up too. So let's take this one apart, see if we can get this fan going. Seems like, you know, the hot weather, everybody's dragging out their fans. And the problem is when they've been sitting around for a while, they sometimes get gummed up a bit, and then we have to give them a helping hand. So we'll start by removing the screws that hold the grill on. And I forgot how I took this thing apart. Or took the other one apart last year. I think I have to take the grill off and I should be able to get to the motor. To remove the screws, off comes the blade guard, and the motor's a little bit gummed up. So we'll remove the fan blade. So now I want to remove the motor itself. I'll unplug it to do this. So I'm going to remove the four screws that hold the motor in place. And now I want to actually open the motor up. So there's four more screws that hold the motor together. And now I should be able to pull the motor apart, which I can. And if I remove this clip from the front here, I'll be able to actually pull the actual rotor right out. So we'll just take off this E-clip. I think this one's an E-clip. Yeah, E-clip. And now I can actually push the entire rotor assembly through so that we can clean up the bearings. All gummed up. This is what happens when they sit around for a while. And these use what's called a sintered bearing. The problem with a sintered bearing is that they tend to get dry after a while. There we go. And in this case, the bearing looks like it's actually seized right up, right there. So see if we can free this bearing up a bit, because it is in pretty tough shape. We actually pushed the bearing right through out of the housing on this one. If I can pull it apart. There it is. Okay, there's the bearing out, and as you can see, the lubricant in here is really dried up. We're going to try cleaning this up and see whether I can get it to spin freely. Maybe get another couple years use out of this fan. Just going to take a rag with some isopropanol. We're going to clean this up. This bearing is quite badly worn. As you can see, there's a fair bit of wear on the shaft itself. I'm going to try and clean that up a bit. We'll use some aluminum oxide to try and clean that bearing up. But if we can get another year out of this fan, great. When the bearings start to wear like this, there's not a lot you can do, right? This one's pretty much worn out. That's what happens on a lot of these cheap fans. I know this thing wasn't cheap. These were relatively expensive. But when the bearings get like this, a lot of times you're fighting a losing battle because it's scored, right? So we can use some fine grit or aluminum oxide paper, sandpaper, to try and polish it up a bit. It's about the only chance is to try and polish that up and get some of that the grooves out of it. That's a little better. Back bearing doesn't look to be in too bad a shape. We can certainly give it a bit of a spin too, just to take some of the roughness out of it. We'll clean the inside of the bearing out by just feeding the rag through it and pulling it through. You know what the inside of that bearing is like, how bad it is. It's tough to tell. It doesn't look to be too badly. Scored. Yeah, there's a bit of scoring inside the bearing itself, so it's going to limit its ability to hold oil, unfortunately. This is what happens is you lubricate it, but when the bearing itself is scored and worn on the inside, as this one here is, it's not going to hold the lubricant that well. And what will happen is it'll dry out. So, as I say, it'll probably run for another, probably get another year's use out of it. But I fully expect that this one here will probably go bad again. In the next year or so, might get a year's use out of it. But it'll definitely fail at some point and need to be replaced. Okay, I pushed the bearing back in, which was a challenge all in itself. Now we'll try to get the motor back together. Now I've put some oil. I saturated the felt pad that supplies oil to the stinted bearing. Again, this is a temporary fix on these type. When the bearings get damaged like this, really you can't guarantee that this is going to last any length of time. The person that owns this just happens to be a friend, so I'm not making any money fixing this. I'm kind of doing it as a favor. That's spinning pretty quiet now. Get the screws in it, put the fan together, and see if it will run. Yeah, it's spinning. Low, medium, and high. So that's got this one running again. I would expect that the person that owns it, they might get another year out of this one, and then they're going to have to look at replacing it, because typically when those bearings get like that, if you get to them before they get scored, then they will generally last for a while. But once the bearing itself starts to get scored up and seized up, there's, you can extend the life of them, but you're not going to make them last forever once they get to this state. It's pretty much time to replace the bearings, either press new bearings in, but you need a new rotor as well, right? Because that's been scored. So might get another year use out of it, and then it's time to replace it. But get them going again on the hottest days of the year when all the stores are out of fans. Best time to buy them, of course, is before you have the hot weather. Stock up on fans, and then you've got them for the year, and if they last a couple of years, you're good to go. I've got a few here that I've serviced. The one sitting beside my bench that I use is that one there. That was one I found at the side of the road. Going strong. But anyway, that's this one back together. I'm just going to put the cage on it, and then I'll take my air compressor and blow all the dust out of it. We'll put the guard back on and send this one home. Thanks for watching.